All right, y'all know what it is. It's your boy D Starks.
Starks Artist.
And you're tuned in to the Just Different Podcast, where we talk everything faith, life, and culture. Man, EP 20.
Last EP of the year.
Man, it's been a ride.
Yeah, I mean.
Crazy.
I guess it's only been like 5 months. like 4 months.
That's insane. But no, first and foremost, I definitely want to, I know I say this a lot, and I don't ever want it to become a cliche, but I can speak for Jordan as well when I say this, that we love y'all. Like, for real, y'all support, all the words of encouragement from like messages, DMs, comments, like the past 3 to 4 months that we've been doing this have been through the roof, unmatched. So we thank y'all. Like, honestly, I want to make that very known, just because you guys are entrusting us to pour into your lives. Yeah. And that's not something that, we take lightly at all. Like, I'm always texting my parents, pastor, inner circle, like, yo, like, it's what I'm saying. It's this biblically accurate, it's theologically sound. And that's because, one, we don't want to dishonor God, but two, we don't want to lead his people astray. Yeah. Right. So everything we come up here and say, obviously, stuff that we go through, that we've like experienced and things like that. And obviously that, it's a priority to us, and we don't take it lightly. So thank y'all so much, like, for real. We don't want to we don't want to let this year end without us saying that and y'all knowing up front. So much love always. Can't wait for 2022 and everything that's coming. We're super excited for where God's going to take us, but yeah, well, we actually got an announcement though.
Oh yeah,
we got an
announcement for
something new.
Okay, so basically, every Tuesday in January, we're going to be going live on YouTube. We're going to be calling it Testimony Tuesdays, and I know for the first Tuesday, we're going to be talking about just like how to, because we had questions of people asking like, how do I study my Bible? Having questions about that. So that's what our first Tuesday is going to be about. You got
No, yeah, of course. So first Tuesday is going to be about how to study your Bible. We're going to talk about prayer, spiritual warfare for the third week. The fourth week is going to be a little surprise. Probably going to bring on a guest. So yeah, it's basically going to be very similar to like what a Bible study is. But you know how we do it. It's not going to be dry. We're going to we're going to do our thing, have fun. And ultimately, like, we want to talk about these subjects at the start of the year because, like, we're getting closer to God all 2022. About our Father's business, no games. And these are, like, the basics, the foundations that we have to lay. So I'm excited about that. We talked about doing a Discord and online community, but we're still praying about that. Put that to the side, but we definitely want to do the live. So, yeah, tap in, set your reminders, put in your calendars every Tuesday in January. We'll have more details on the time and thing. We'll put it on Instagram, so look out for that. But, let's get straight into it.
Let's go. So, what's this EP gonna be all about?
So this, we're just basically gonna be going over, 2021 things, the lessons that we've learned this past, like a little recap, lessons that we've learned this entire year, that God's released on us and that we've gone through, dealt with, and I've experienced, and now I've got a lot of wisdom from.
Okay.
But no, yeah, go ahead. You gonna go lead us?
Okay, yeah. Let me go ahead and kick it off the episode. So basically, I feel like one of the main things I've learned this year, and even with like the podcast, everything is do it anyway. Because like a lot of people don't know, we almost didn't start the podcast.
Right.
Yeah, because we almost didn't start it because, like, for me personally, I felt unprepared. I felt like I wasn't equipped. I felt like I wasn't where I needed to be. But it's like God doesn't call qualified people. He qualifies who he calls, right? So even...
That's a bar. Hold on, say it again. That's a bar.
I said God doesn't call qualified people. He qualifies who he calls, right? So even in every aspect of your life, if you feel unprepared about something, like whatever God's calling you to, if it's tugging on your spirit, you got to do it anyway, even through the fear, you know what I'm saying, through the uncertainty. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
No, 100%. I think we've expressed that, or at least said that before, that we almost didn't even do the podcast, and that's really been the word for us, and that we've been like just screaming is do it anyway, right? Like, it's not about being perfect. It's all about if you're available, right? He's not looking for perfect vessels. He's looking for those who are available and wanting to be obedient to what he's calling them into. So do it scared, do it frightened, do it uncertain, do it alone. But if he's telling you to go into it, do it anyway, right? And everything else will fall into place. He's going to provide what you need, the relationships, the connections, as you continue to step in and walk into your obedience.
Exactly.
So that's the biggest thing. We're still big on that, even going into 2022, because every level of life and every level of success and what God's going to call you to is going to require that. Yeah. Because you're always going to feel unprepared. Yeah. You're never going to be ready enough. You're never going to feel that way. So you have to step outside of that step through that and do it anyway.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's good. But I think with that, as we started doing like the podcast and really stepping into like this ministry space in terms of, publicly giving God's word, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is the fact that what you do for God and your relationship with him are two different things. What you do for him and relationship or connection you have with them are not the same. So just because God's using you doesn't mean he's pleased with you.
That's good.
That's what I would say, because sometimes we can get the two mixed up. We can think what we're doing for God is not the supplement, but the substitute for our connection with him.
Yeah.
Right? I know we've mentioned it before, but in the Bible, in Matthew, it talks about how there's people who come to God and said, Lord, Lord, we cast demons out in your name.
Yeah.
We healed the sick in your name.
Right.
We preached the gospel.
Yep.
We saved souls.
We did that.
Right? I had Instagram lives every week. I had 100,000 followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
I had impact across the world. I was running the Instagram page, glorifying your name, bringing people to Christ.
I did it
right?
all.
But he looks at them and says, I never knew you.
Never.
Appreciate your work.
Like,
appreciate the ministry.
much love, but
Appreciate the mission trips. But how well does he know you? And at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that I've learned this year is it's to know him.
Yeah.
And nothing else really matters. Nothing else really matters. It's all about knowing who God is and being in relationship with him. And sometimes I think we get that confused with so many other things.
Yeah.
And that's at the basis, that's crazy that all he wants is relationship. Appreciate your obedience. Thank you for answering the call. But why aren't you talking to me?
That's what it's about.
So I think sometimes we can run the risk of making purpose our idol.
That's good.
And the call, what we're giving our time to and submitting to instead of God himself.
Right.
And so we have to understand that not getting them confused and putting that on the throne, because sometimes that can happen too. So yeah, I would definitely say that.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I've even experienced that sort of like with the podcast. Sometimes it's you confuse the two. You know what I mean? It's like a thin line. So you got to make sure you're differentiating. Like,
and just checking your heart and your motives and why you're doing what you're doing, and making sure it's always pointing back to him.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. I like that. But I say another lesson for me, 21 is that some questions just don't have answers. I think a lot of people easily get caught up on not always having the answers to everything, because I think as just humans in general, we like to know everything. We like to always have all the information, all the details, but in this world in general, not just a walk with God, some things just aren't going to make sense. And I feel like I kind of juggle with that this year. It's like there's certain things that didn't really make sense to me. Like, why did this have to happen, God? Like, I'm asking God these questions, and like there are certain things that God just hasn't ordained for you to know in the season or in general, and you just have to come to terms with that. And I think I found peace coming to terms with the fact that I'm not always going to know every little thing. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. And I think sometimes there's actually a certain level of like peace and strength that comes in moments or seasons or times of uncertainty and doubt.
Yeah,
right. Like when it's that aspect of like, like when you are weak, that's when the spirit's strong. That's when God carries you. Yeah. And if you know all the answers, if you have it all figured out, then why do you need him?
Right.
Why is faith necessary? If I have the knowledge and information on how it's all supposed to work out, on what all of this means, then where does God fit in that picture? Right. He's there, and we have the Spirit to help us through those moments.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think keeping that in mind too, that uncertainty can be a weakness that obviously faith helps us through, that walks us through.
Exactly.
And maybe not always we get a response or peace from that with an answer, but it does come with more faith in him, regardless of if we understand it completely or not.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a bar.
That's good. Well said.
But I think my next one would be, let me think. I don't think salvation is just a one-time event. I think it's actually something that happens every day.
Right.
I know we're familiar with giving God our life at the altar, but as I'm getting older, I'm realizing it's actually something you do every day.
That's
So yes, I gave him my life. I gave him my yes. I said, God, have my heart, but it didn't just stop there.
yeah.
It was a commitment that I made, but there's a call I have to answer every morning.
Mm.
There's steps I have to walk through every day.
Yep.
There's a choice I have to make every time I wake up.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm realizing, especially this year, because I don't know, I felt like when I gave my life to Christ, I was under like this, I don't know, false pretense that it just stopped there.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is you need him every day.
Every day. Yeah.
One, and you have to commit to what he's calling you every single morning. Choose what? This day.
Yeah.
Because I believe every day is almost its own lifetime. Every day within itself is its own lifetime because our time is limited. So it's like, did he have your life today? Because that's all you really have.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's not guaranteed.
I like that. Yeah.
So that's what I'm learning. It happens every single day. That yes, it's continuous, consistent. It's just not something that you can pick up one day and just drop the next. It's that cross you got to continuously carry. So yeah, that's what I think that had to be my next one. That's one of the biggest ones for sure.
That's really good. Okay, yeah, no, I think that's really good. I like that one. But I think another lesson I feel like I've learned throughout this year is that someone once said this to me. They said they didn't say it to me. I heard it in the video. They said all disappointment stems from expectation.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really good because I feel like in my life, in certain areas, and with certain people, I was putting unrealistic expectations on them.
Right.
And I was putting them in places that they did not belong and putting weights on them that they weren't meant to carry. And until a point where I was sort of idolizing them, not realizing like they're just human, just like I am, right? And if I put those people in those places they don't belong, I'm bound to be disappointed. So I think that's one of my lessons this year is just like realizing like stop putting expectations on people that only God can carry, or putting weight on people only God was meant to carry.
He can only fulfill.
Exactly.
That's good. I know we mentioned that like way earlier in one of our EPs, but no, that makes a lot of sense. And then even when you think about it, that not only like affects you, but it affects them too.
Right.
And how you treat, like how you're interacting with them, how you treat them, and ultimately like that relationship, because now you're putting all this weight and this expectation, and then like your perception of them is now false.
Yeah.
Because there's a mere mortal.
Exactly.
Right? Only God can really fulfill maybe the weight you may be trying to put on somebody else. Yeah. So I think, that's actually fire. That makes a lot of sense. And my next one, we had it. So, it was EP. There's grace for that.
Okay.
EPA.
Yeah, that was a good one.
There's grace for that. Like one, I think what y'all don't realize is a lot of time we're just preaching to ourselves. And that EP most definitely, I was just talking and preaching to me. And what I really learned or got from that is there's grace for that, but there's also consequences too. So like God, he's going to deliver you from the guilt and shame from your sin.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean he's going to eliminate the consequence. You'll always have to reap a harvest from the seeds you've sown.
Yep.
Whether that be positive or negative.
Yep.
Now we always talk about reaping that harvest in that next season. Well, what about them bad seeds you sown?
What about that questionable thing you planted over there?
That's gonna come up too.
Yeah.
That's gonna be in the harvest. That's gonna be within the crop. So I think we have to understand that as well. That yes, in this process of, because I think that's what was happening to me. I was like, okay, I'm in this process and I'm getting to a point where I'm really accepting God's love, His grace, and forgiving me from this past season of my life. But there were still also consequences coming up from everything I did. Yeah. Right? Like understanding like the true consequences of my selfish decisions. Shout out Drizzy.
I was about to say the next bar.
But for real though. And so I think, and that's one thing that I didn't realize, especially when I came into Christ initially, that like there's still repercussions to those actions, even though the debt against those has been paid by God.
I like that.
The consequences are still present, and so you have to, deal with those accordingly, right? Understand that, face those, but still maintain, right, the reality. Okay, like there's still grace from that, and not letting that moment or the consequences from it define you. Because I think sometimes it's not even always about the season you go through, but what it leaves you with. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does.
It's not always I think that's sometimes the worst part, because you leave it and now you're stuck with these memories.
Yeah.
These relationships.
That's tough.
This emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
This mental instability. I think so. The obviously what you go through is hell, but there's still also things that it leaves you with.
Yeah.
That you have to deal with, and with that being said, you have to just make sure that obviously you're forgiving yourself, understanding that there's going to be consequences from those things as well, but still not letting those things hold you back either. Right? Not what you did in the season or what even comes from it. Forgiving yourself from it, accepting God's love and grace, and moving on to what's more, what God has in the future, and not staying stuck on the past. So yeah, I think that was twofold for me. Not only what happened, but what came from it. It's so two tough. Parts. So yeah.
It's so tough.
Yeah,
wait, what you say? Say it again. You said
what was it?
Dang, I don't even remember. You're like, it's not always the season you go through, but what you leave it with.
Yeah. What it leaves you with. Yeah.
That's different. That's different. I'm writing that one down, but I think it was good you brought up the EP we talked about, like there's grace for that. And I think even something that I had to learn, even in just like past season, but I think it's a reoccurring lesson, is that there's also grace for them. I think that we're so quick to accept grace, but so slow to give it out.
That's fire.
Because I did them wrong, and I'm asking like, God forgive me, but it's like, God forbid someone does something to me.
Exactly.
I'm holding a grudge.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah. So you have to realize, like, just like you get grace, you have to give that out as well. And it's not an easy process, but it's like, it's very hypocritical.
100%.
Yeah. So I think that's a big lesson.
And we just have to get to the point to where we're genuinely loving just as God loved us.
Exactly.
Because I think we're in a very reactive culture, and we have a lot of conditions and stipulations to our love and our grace.
Yeah.
So their past has to look a certain way.
Yeah.
What they did has to be within the context of this, and then I'll forgive. Then I'll give grace. Then I'll love. But newsflash, while we were still sinners.
Say it.
While we were sinners, what Christ died for us. It wasn't an if.
It wasn't an if.
It was I will, right? And we're in a very reactionary culture, reactive culture, I mean. And what I mean by that is like, I'll love if they love first. I'll forgive if they do it. I'll show effort if they do. I'll give care. I'll give my time. Only if they do it first, though. And we take that and we've brought it into like how we treat other people, and we put this like idea in the kingdom, and that's not how it works. You love, period.
Yeah. Do it anyway.
Do it
anyway.
You gotta do it anyway.
That's really applicable to so many things. Like, real talk. Do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not easy. We're not saying that, but no, for sure. Like loving just as Christ like loved us.
Exactly.
Ultimately, which is an ongoing process because people be
100%
bugging. But anyways,
what else?
The next thing I'll say, and this actually came to me like a couple weeks ago. Okay. It wasn't too long ago, but I would say that success and failure are both temporary. Success and failure are both temporary. So when we go through seasons or moments of failure, when we miss the mark, when we don't accomplish the goal we were trying to reach, and or we have some type of disappointment of not necessarily achieving what we wanted or getting to the point we had dreamed of, everyone's always like, well, it's just temporary.
Yeah.
Right, like don't stay here. Don't let this define the totality of who you are or the rest of the journey that God has for you. What's next?
Exactly.
What I'm realizing is it's actually the same with success too.
Yeah.
that when you reach the goal, when you accomplish the dream, that's temporary as well.
Mm-mm.
Yes, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cherish it.
Right.
But that's not the totality of everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the defining factor of what's next or what everything was.
Mm-hmm.
Like like success is temporary too.
Exactly.
And so I think sometimes we get, and what I realized is just like, yo, even while we're doing the podcast and God's like, you know, taking this to like amazing places, growing us and our following and people who are supporting us, it's like you get to the destination and you realize that the journey was actually the prize.
Yeah. So
you reach the finish line and look back and realize the process was actually everything you were looking for.
Exactly.
That was what it was really about.
Mm-hmm.
That was where the joy was at.
Yeah.
That's where the love was at. Yes, the hard nights. Yes, the discipline and all of that. But that's really what it was all about.
It even reminds me of the scripture in Ecclesiastes. Dang, I wish I should. Yeah, it's a scripture in Ecclesiastes. It mentions there's a time for everything. A time for joy, time for laughter, time for sorrow. So it's like there's a time for everything. I think that's a good point to bring. Like everything's temporary. But I think we always apply that to the bad times.
Right.
And the things that hurt. But that also applies to the things that feel good.
100%. Yeah, and not saying that, okay, you're not going to have, like, good times don't last, right? Like, it's the sentiment of, like, yo, like, success, it's amazing, but you can't stay stuck there.
Exactly.
That can't be the totality of everything you're looking for, or you'll never actually get anything done.
Exactly.
Right? Like, okay, so for example, when you even thinking about practically, when you think about someone who's going to run like a marathon, a mini marathon, triathlon, whatever it may be, what do? They're literally spending sometimes years, particularly months beforehand, preparing,
Right.
getting their diet together, discipline, regiments, schedules, all of that, just to get to the race, run it, finish it, right? Accomplish that. It'd be great, amazing. But when you think about it, they spent more time in preparation, sacrificing all that those nights, their own desires, what they wanted, just for this small moment of the race itself.
Yeah.
So if all I'm looking for is this success, is the finish line, is the goal, then I'll never actually appreciate the steps along the journey.
Exactly.
And I'll miss it. I'll miss the memories. I'll miss the experiences. I'll miss everything that the process had to offer when that's really everything.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
So that's how I would say, like, success and failure are both temporary, and not negating success, not saying it's a good thing, because it's great, it's amazing, but you have to find joy in the journey along the way. Yeah. That's really it, because that's where you're gonna spend most of your time, and that's everything, really. Yeah.
I remember I was having this conversation, like, honestly, what was this? It was like 3 days ago, and just sort of like along the lines of that. It's not the same point, but we're talking about, like, you know, success in the journey. I was talking about someone about, like, just happiness and sadness, and I was talking about that dynamic, and we were, what was the point that was brought up? We were talking about how, like, without the sad times or the tough times, like, the happiness doesn't really mean as much. Like, it loses its substance. And I'm even just, like, saying this, like, this is sort of like a lesson that I've learned throughout this year. It's like, I feel like, say you were happy 24/7. The whole idea of happiness itself would sort of cease to exist. Like, it's the dynamic of the sad that makes happy a thing in the first place.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I feel like I've sort of just been learning, like, to cherish the sad times as well. Yeah. Because, like, without those, like, the happy ones wouldn't be as meaningful.
Yeah, there's still lessons and things to be learned in those times too. Yeah, no, for sure, no, 100%.
But you got something else?
I was gonna ask you.
Oh, I think that was my last point right there. My last lesson.
That's how you feeling?
The main lesson.
No, for you, yeah. And so, actually, I'll go ahead and we'll kind of end it with this. But what I'll say, this is something that really hit my spirit and my heart, and what I felt God was telling me, particularly going into 2022. And just for me personally, like, this next season of my life, is that you can't go into your next season at your current rate of discipline. You cannot go into your next season of life and what God's calling you to at your current rate of discipline. Yeah. Success requires sacrifice. it requires sacrifice.
Yep.
So yeah, I know we're talking about 2022 being our the new year.
Yeah,
Right, walking into our blessings.
Right. I heard it all.
And all of that, which is amazing, but it's gonna come at a cost. You quote unquote living your best life, you stepping to the blessing God has for you, your purpose, all these achievements and goals and accomplishments that you want to see. It's got a price tag.
It does. It's not just gonna fall into your lap.
It's got a price tag, and at every season of your life, at every new level that you're gonna go into, and God's calling you to, it's gonna require something. It's gonna require your time, more discipline, more focus, more concentration. All those things, it's gonna require that. Yeah. So you have to ask yourself, you want 2022 to be the best year of your life, and claim it, right? We're not saying that's not gonna be the case for you and yours, but are you willing to pay for it?
You can't have the blessing without the cut.
No, yeah, it comes at a price.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 2022, and 2022 is like, okay, I see what you want. Run me that.
Yep.
Give me that. Oh, so you want it to be the best year? Okay, I'm gonna need that Friday night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna need that Saturday. That Netflix right there? Yeah, exchange that for some books.
Yep.
That circle? Nah. Run me that. Get with these like-minded individuals. Mm-hmm. That Sunday? Run me that. Run me my coin. That's what 2022 is saying.
Yeah.
You can't go at your current rate. Because at this next juncture, it's a different pace.
Yeah.
It's almost a completely different race. So you gotta match the level of the season you're in. And I think a lot of us are trying to move into new seasons with old mindsets, with old habits, old friends.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to be the case.
Yeah.
It requires something. So the question is, are you willing to pay for it?
Are you?
That's what you ask yourself. I know we're going into with a lot of things. We're going into 2020 with a lot of things. What are we leaving behind? What's staying here?
Oh, they don't like that.
What's staying in this year that we're not taking into 2022?
What do you need to leave behind?
No more conditional yeses. No more laxical time in your prayer closet.
Nope.
Inconsistencies in reading your Bible. Nah. What are you willing to pay? It comes at a high price.
Indeed.
Period. So you got anything else for the people?
I think that was a good one to leave them off with. Last EP of the year. I think that was a good point right there.
Yeah, success requires sacrifice. So ask yourself that going into this next year. Claim it. We want that for all of y'all. Yep. But make sure you're gonna be willing to put in the work. Right? And obviously God's gonna give you the help with that through His Spirit.
Exactly.
So yeah, y'all. With that being said, as always, stay you, stay real, and stay humble. We'll catch y'all next year. Much love.
2022.